What's up guys, it's Ryan, and it's been a hot minute since I've talked about Persona 5 Royal, hasn't it? Truthfully, the reason I haven't been talking about it is mostly just down to there hasn't been too much news to talk about as of late. However, a couple of days ago, Atlas had a live stream to detail new stuff in Persona 5 Royal. While there isn't too much to go over in the actual game itself, they did show the prologue for Persona 5 once again, except with a handful of differences and one major one. Today, I'd like to go over those changes, and I'm planning on making a video soon about Kasumi Yoshizawa, the new Persona user in Persona 5 Royal, fairly soon. Oh, I should also note the fact that there will be some spoilers in here for Persona 5 and of course Persona 5 Royal, so if you haven't finished Persona 5, I highly recommend you do so. With that said, let's get rolling, soldiers. To start off, there's a fairly minor but interesting change nonetheless with the text boxes in Persona 5 Royal's Prologue. In Persona 5, when the characters were telling Ren how to get out of the casino, there's no signature headshot of the characters on the left-hand side of the text box. I'm assuming this is sort of to hide the characters so you can see the designs for the first time later. However, in P5Rs, this isn't the case anymore. The character models are actually there now, albeit heavily shadowed, but you can easily make out some of those features. I mean, it's kinda hard to miss Morgana's eyes. However, it should be noted that the character models do appear in the text boxes in the upper right-hand corner of the screen like the original, so it's most likely this is just a small quality of life change for Royal. Moving on, we get the battle with Ren fighting the Shadow on the balcony. We get a fun little new transition when Ren enters the doorway. In the original, it was the simple one of the curtain falling with Ren crouching behind it. However, now the transition is different, with paper crumbling up and sort of flying away near the upper left corner of the screen. Makes you wonder if there's going to be any new transitions in Royal aside from this one. The next bit to talk about is Ren running along the narrow hallway areas. I want to talk about the mini-map for a second here. Comparing it, you can see the original's map is a little bit different from Royal's, with Royal showing a massive room to the right section of the map. This room is actually brand new, and we'll be talking about it later. The next part to talk about is actually an entire cutscene moved to a different section of the palace entirely. After running up the stairs, you don't get the last cutscene of Ren being captured. We actually get some new dialogue this time. First of all, thank you to theroonco on Reddit for translating the new scenes in the prologue. Go give him some love. Ren is now stuck in a new room with a security guard who just isn't moving along, with Ren having no way of sneaking around him. Futaba asks him how long he's been there, concerned, and Akechi tells him that if he takes too much time, the security will only increase, with Futaba telling him that she's looking for another route. With that said, Futaba tells Ren to look up and tells him to use the grappler and fly up and land on the railing above L1, with us getting our first non-trailer gameplay of the grappler in the process. Ren then runs through the entrance at the top, and Futaba says that there are enemies close by. Right on cue, a ton of shadows appear, and even a bit too much for Ren to take on. Futaba says that she detected a signal a while ago, and that signal is close by. And with that, our new Persona user, Kasumi Yoshizawa, appears. We have a whole lot to talk about here, so sit tight for a minute, folks. Kasumi tells Ren that, at last, I can say goodbye, with Futaba telling him that that's the strange signal. Kasumi then says to Ren, to the one who always needed help, I bid thee farewell today. After her dance scene of her defeating shadows, because Atlas seems to constantly remind us that she dances, she then says, I'm with you, and then we proceed into the fight with the two. During the fight, Futaba says that the enemy signals are decreasing, with I think Morgana responding with, those guys are what? Confused. Kasumi then says to Ren, it's been a while since we last fought together, long time no see, and it's time for me to win too. Let's win. Kasumi deals a ton of damage to the enemies, almost Virgil style now that I think about it, and lands critical on all of them. An all-out attack begins, but something to note that I'm not really understanding so far is that the portraits that fly out when the red background breaks are completely gone, now replaced with, well, nothing. We get Kasumi's splash screen, which I still think looks pretty cool, and then some more dialogue between the two. Kasumi asks him if that's all of them, with Futaba responding with, somehow I can't tell properly. Is it safe? And then quickly responds with, no, you're still being pursued. Get out of there. Kasumi tells him to go, saying it'll be harder for them to find him, with her saying that Ren still has something to do as a phantom thief and that she won't stop him. She then responds with one of the most intriguing lines to me, saying that she's not a phantom thief, so it's not something that she can say. Before she leaves, she says one final thing to Ren. Don't forget the promise we made before. Then leaving, with Futaba telling him to get along. The rest of the prologue plays about the same, with the cutscene of Ren running through the hallways and being captured being moved to after the Kasumi encounter. But speaking of that, let's talk about the Kasumi encounter for a second here, and really dissect it. Kasumi tells Ren that, at last I can say goodbye, though I'll be going over more of it later because I believe it's related to a later line. Kasumi tells Ren that he's the one who always needed help, and that she's bidding him farewell. The thing is though, Ren hasn't exactly had any moments in the original game where he's needed help in the palaces, and if he does, he has the other party members with him. My theory is this. Kasumi is actually someone who awakens to the inner rebellion earlier on in the story than the others, and that every subsequent palace after, Ren gets into a major snag and she saves him from it. Though, due to how serious the Phantom Thieves are, she doesn't want to have any involvement with them actually being one. That's just my theory though, and actually it's a literal game theory. I should also point out real quick that because she's not a Phantom Thief, she doesn't actually have a codename yet. She's simply referred to as Mysterious Girl. Kasumi also says that it's been a long time since they last fought together, and long time no see. Futaba also saying that the enemy signals are decreasing is interesting to me, but there's not really too much I can say on it. Maybe the shadows are sort of running away, scared of Kasumi, and maybe that's that? I don't really know. The last thing to point out, though, is the final two lines we hear from Kasumi, her saying she isn't a phantom thief and that Ren shouldn't forget the promise they made before. The thing about her not being a phantom thief I touched on a bit earlier. Maybe she feels that it's a bit too much for her to handle and that she shouldn't do it, or she doesn't want to be involved in something that could get her arrested. The promise, though, that's a bit of a tough one. If I had to assume, maybe before Kasumi tells Ren that she doesn't want to be a phantom thief, she tells him to come back safe each time or something, which, considering she wouldn't know about the plan, she wouldn't think he did. We know when Ren's suicide pops up in the news that it's fake, and so do the other phantom thieves, knowing that they tricked all of them. Kasumi, however, wouldn't. This may also be related to the small scene that we've seen before of Kasumi crying. Maybe her actually thinking that Ren's actually dead. But the rest of this plays out the same, with Ren being caught on purpose and then arrested. But that's about all to really go over. It's a lot, isn't it? It's shocking how much one character can get people talking. Whether I'm personally fond of her inclusion or not, we'll have to wait and see. Please don't be another Marie, though. But with that said, what do you guys think about all of this? The new lines of dialogue, the new areas, the new quality of life changes, and even more. Comment below and let me know, especially if I missed anything. Thank you guys very much for watching, have a great day, and take care. Signing off. Peace out.
There's nothing inside.